I could hear the raised voices as I walked down my street. Surely, that couldn't be coming from my house. My mom and dad never argued. But as I got closer, I realized that it was my mom and dad. I wondered what could have happened to make them fight like that. I opened the front door, and the shouting hit me like a ton of bricks. "You betrayed me! No, it was you who betrayed me! I hate you! I never want to see you again!" That was my mom. Why would she say something like that to my dad? I wondered what he could have done. "Don't worry, I'm out of here," shouted Dad. "Do you really think I want to spend another minute of my time with someone like you? This couldn't be happening." "What's going on?" I asked. Mom and Dad looked around in surprise. They hadn't realized I had been standing there, listening to everything they said. Dad barged past me and out the front door, slamming it behind him as he went. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more crazy stories. I couldn't understand why there had been fighting. I always thought they were so in love, the perfect couple. But I guess they hadn't been as happy as I thought, because the following day my dad packed up all those things and left our house for good. He got an apartment on the other side of town. He told me that he wanted me to go and live with him there, but Mom also wanted me to live with her. I tried to ask them both what had happened to make them fight, but they were both really vague. I don't know if they were trying to protect me or if they thought I wouldn't understand. Mom just said things hadn't been going well for a while, and my dad said they had drifted apart. It didn't seem like a good enough reason to get divorced, but I suppose they knew what they were doing. They told me that by the end of the week, I would have to decide which one of them I was going to live with. It wasn't an easy decision. My dad just kept on showering me with presents. In the following couple of days, he literally bought me everything I'd asked for in the last few months. I knew he was trying to buy me, but it was hard to resist. My mom, on the other hand, just tried to guilt trip me into staying with her. "You wouldn't leave me, darling, would you? Not after everything I have done for you," she said. "Remember, I carried you in my tummy for 9 months. I fed you, bathed you, read you stories, whilst all your father did was go to work. It was too difficult. How on earth could I choose between one parent or another? I decided the only thing for it was to flip a coin. So that's what I did. Heads up, I stay with my mom. Tails, I go live with my dad. I flipped the coin in the air. I watched as it turned over and over as it tumbled back down. I caught it on the back of my hand. It was heads. So I stayed at home with my mom. Dad was really upset when I told him my decision. "I promise I will come and see you as often as I can," I told him. I really missed my dad. We used to spend every evening together, watching TV or out in the garden if the weather was nice. Now I just sat in my room, alone in front of my computer. Mom was always busy doing something. She said that she didn't have time to laze around all night in front of the television. I couldn't wait for the weekend so that I could go and see my dad. When the school bell rang to say it was the end of the day, I ran out of the school gates. I could see my dad's car parked at the end of the road. I jumped in and gave Dad a big hug. "I've missed you so much," I said. "And I've missed you too, Bella," said Dad. "I've got a really special weekend planned for us." That night we ordered pizza and sat together watching TV. It was a perfect way to spend a Friday night. The next day, Dad took me into town to go shopping. Then we went to see a movie. The weekend went by so quickly. Before I knew it, it was time for Dad to drop me back to my mom's house. I didn't want to go, but I knew I had no choice. The week seemed to drag by, but eventually it was Thursday night. The next day, I would be going to see my dad again. I was sitting in my room wondering what my dad would have planned for us to do that weekend when I heard a loud knock at the door. I wondered who could be coming to our house at that time of night. I went downstairs and was surprised to see 2 policemen standing in our hallway. "What's happened, Mom?" I asked. Mom looked at me. "Apparently your dad has been involved in some sort of incident," she said. "What do you mean?" "Someone has attempted to murder him." The blood drained from my face. "Is he going to be okay?" "I'm sorry," said the policeman. "We don't have any more details at the moment. We will take you to the hospital now so that you can see your dad." I got in the police car and we drove to the hospital. When I got there, Dad was laid in bed. He was covered in bandages. "Dad, are you okay?" I cried as I ran to his bedside. "He has been sedated," said his doctor. "We need him to rest and recover from his injuries." "What happened to him?" The doctor told me that someone had stabbed my dad. He had been injured quite badly, but they felt sure he would make it. Luckily, his wounds weren't too deep. I couldn't understand who would want to do this to my dad. He was such a kind man. He didn't have any enemies. I called Mom and told her that Dad was going to be fine. "I'm going to go over to his apartment before I come home," I said. "I just want to make sure everything is okay there." "Okay, Bella, be careful," Mom said. When I got to Dad's apartment, everything looked normal. There was no sign of a break-in or anything. I went inside. The apartment looked exactly the same as when I left it last week. Nothing out of place. It just didn't make sense to me. I was about to leave when I suddenly spotted something on the floor. It was a gemstone, a round red ruby. I wondered where it could have come from. I picked it up and put it in my pocket. I decided I would ask Dad about it when he woke up. I locked the door and went back home to my mom's. I thought that she would show a little concern about Dad, but it seemed like she didn't care at all. When I went into the kitchen, she didn't ask a thing. She just carried on stirring the pot on the stove. "Dinner will be ready soon, Bella," she said. "Go get a shower and come straight down." I did as Mom told me. I couldn't believe she was being so heartless. Even though they were getting a divorce now, she must have loved him at one point. After my shower, I went and sat at the dining room table. Mom came in with a steaming bowl in her hands. That's when I saw it. The necklace Mom was wearing was missing a stone. There was a big hole where once there had been a bright red ruby. I knew I had to confront her. I pulled the ruby out of my pocket. "Mom, is this yours?" I asked her. "Oh, thank you, darling," she said. "I've been looking for that everywhere. Where did you find it?" "In Dad's apartment." Mom looked at me and I realized I knew what she had done. She was the one who tried to murder my dad. "Why did you want to hurt Dad?" I asked her. "Your dad is a spy for the British government," she said. "He's been trying to get secrets out of me because I work for the United States government. I had to silence him. That's why I did it." "You're not going to tell anyone, are you? You wouldn't put your own mother in prison, would you?" This is crazy, I thought. "I'm going to see Dad," I shouted. "I need to hear what he has to say." I ran out of the house and went straight to the hospital. Dad was sitting up in bed. He looked really happy to see me. "I know you're a spy," I shouted at him. He looked shocked. "Who told you that?" he asked. "Mom told me. I know all about you trying to get secrets out of her." "Well, did she also tell you that she is a Russian spy?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Did my dad think I was stupid? "Mom's not from Russia. She's from Texas," I said. "Oh, that's just the fake identity she made for herself. She has perfected the Texas accent to fool everyone." "But what about my grandparents?" I asked him. "They live in Texas. We have stayed there so many times." Dad told me that my mom had hired these people to pretend to be my grandparents, to fool us into believing that she was really from Texas. "Wait, so are you both spies then?" I asked Dad. "No, only your mom." I didn't know who to believe. It was crazy. I thought I had two normal parents, and now they were both saying that the other was a spy. I didn't know which one I could trust, but seeing as my dad was the one who was in the hospital, I guess that I had to believe him. I went back to Mom's and packed up all my things. "I'm going to live with Dad," I told her. "You won't tell anyone, right?" she said. "You won't get me sent to prison, will you?" I shook my head. I didn't like what she had done, but she was still my mom. "I won't tell anyone as long as you leave me and Dad alone now." Mom agreed, and I went to live with my dad. It was a couple of weeks later when I heard a car pull up outside my dad's apartment. I looked out of the window. It was a police car, and two policemen were walking towards our door. My heart dropped. I wondered what they were coming for. Before they had a chance to knock, I opened the door. "Hello, Bella," one of the policemen said. "Can we come in?" I took them into the lounge and we sat on the sofa. That's when they told me the most shocking thing. "Someone has attempted to murder your mom," they said. First my dad, now my mom, I thought. "Is she okay?" I asked. "Yes, she's fine, but we just wanted to ask if you had any idea who might do this to her." I told the policeman that I didn't know anything. As soon as they drove off, I put on my coat and set off to my mom's house. I was determined I would find out who had done this to her. I thought that as she was a spy, maybe she got into trouble with some bad people. But when I got to my mom's house, I saw something I wasn't expecting. On the floor was a handkerchief. I picked it up. I would recognize it anywhere. It had my dad's initials embroidered in one corner. I felt more confused than ever. I wondered if my mom had been telling the truth all along. Had it actually been my dad that was the spy? I decided that the only way to find out the truth was to get them both together and force them to tell me. That's when I came up with my plan. It all took place later that night. I snuck up on my dad while he was in the living room and hit him over the head. I blindfolded my mom while she was sleeping and dragged them both down to the basement and tied them both to a chair. Oh, and if you're wondering how I managed to kidnap two spies, I'm a master in karate. I've studied it for more than 10 years. I guess that is one good thing my parents did for me. It took a while for my dad to come around from the bash on his head, but eventually he opened his eyes. I took off my mom's blindfold. They both looked in surprise at each other. "You tell me the truth right now," I screamed at them. "I want to know which one of you is really a spy." My parents looked at each other and nodded. "We are both spies." they said. My jaw dropped. Seriously? So now I'm in a dilemma. Do I report my mom for attempting to kill my dad? Or do I report my dad for doing the same thing to her? It's the hardest decision of my life. I have to choose between my mom and my dad. Please help me decide. Leave your answers in the comments below.